Welcome guys, welcome to another exciting tutorial of Swift, Advanced Swift Language, Swift 4. So guys, today we will learn about some memory optimization and the most important pattern, which is known as the Singleton pattern. So actually the Singleton pattern is directly concerned with your memory optimization, that how your objects, your variables used the memory. The most prominent way for the developers is to write the code in such a way that it should not consume a lot of memory. So the singleton pattern is one of the good approaches as far as the memory optimization is concerned, because if I used to talk about my classes and structures, they have a direct impact if I use a singleton pattern within my classes and the structures, because the classes and their functions, their stored properties are all always called with the declaration of the object. So let's move towards an application and build an application which uses a singleton pattern, like this singleton pattern here. And I'll later explain that what is the actual advantage of a singleton pattern. Basically, like I said in the start of this tutorial, that memory optimization is one of the best approaches, and it should be followed by the developers. So this is my view controller class, and I have created an extra class which I have named my singleton.swift class. So let's build a very basic application which will clearly defines the actual advantage of a singleton pattern, that why we should use this a singleton pattern. So I would like to say that let's make a class a doctor. Okay, I have created a class doctor, and let's make some stored properties. The attribute of the doctor class, I would like to say doc id equals doc id int, let doc name string, let doc cell number string. Okay, I have declared three attributes: doc id, doc name, and doc cell number. So let's create an init method which is known as the default constructor in other languages. If I would like to write init, as you can see, init, the Swift initializer declaration, a set of statements that prepares an instance of class. Like I said, basically init is concerned with the default constructor, which means that whenever the instance of this class is created, the init method will call itself. I will not going to call my init method because it is an initializer declaration, which means that this part of code calls itself whenever the instance of my doctor class, means that the object of my doctor class is created anywhere in this project. So I would like to say init declaration, which is known as the default constructor in other programming languages, but here in iOS it is known as init, which means initialization. So these are my stored properties, and I would like to give some default values to my stored properties, and it's very simple. Doc id is int, I will use to give it 0. Doc name, which is a string property, so empty string, and a doc cell number. Okay, so I have initialize my properties here. The doc id is an integer type stored property, so I have give a default value, integer default value, and simultaneously the doc name and the doc cell number both are string stored properties. So we have assigned empty string, which means whenever the init method is called, if the doc id is nil, if the doc name is nil, and if the doc cell number is nil, the default values should be these will be the default values. So here it is a good approach for the developers to give default values to their stored properties, because if as far as the JSON parsing is concerned, whenever we used to retrieve data from the server, it is very handy for us that if we used to receive nil optionals, our application will be crashed. So in order to prevent your application from getting crashed, it is very essential for you to give a default value to your stored property like this. And here I would like to print a statement as well, and the statement is object is being called. Okay, so this is the print statement in my default constructor, and here I am going to create another method like function send report. Okay, and again a print statement within this method. It's a very basic implementation of singleton pattern, and I hope you might be quite easy to understand this how actually we achieve the singleton pattern. As I have created a send report method here, I am going to print a statement like the report has been sent to the doctor. Okay, so now I have completed the implementation of this class doctor. I have created 3 attributes. I have declared a default values to my stored attributes: doc id, doc name, doc cell number. This is the init method, which is known as the default constructor, and like I said earlier, the init method calls itself init method calls itself. So there is no need to forcefully call this init method. It will call automatically when the instance of this class will be created. And here is the function send report, which contains a print statement: the report has been sent to the doctor. So let's move to your view controller.swift class, and I will create an object here. Let obj double colon doctor equals to doctor. So in this one line of statement, we have declared an object, and as well as the object has been initialized as well as. So there is no need to initialize the object for no reason, because in this one line of statement you can see the object of doctor has been created successfully, and there is no error so far. So it means that we can move forward. So if I used to call my object function, the object method, and as you can see, the object is basically of the doctor object, which I have declared globally over my view did load method, which means that I can use this object throughout the class. It has a global scope within my class. So obj dot send report is the method. Send report. Okay, that's fine. So let's build this application and see the result. Okay, build succeeded, and see what our console brings forward to us. The simulator loads us successfully, and there it is. We have something in our console app. Okay, let's see this. This is the first print statement. Object is being called. Like I said, if I used to move to my singleton.swift class, here you can see the object is being called. As you can see, I didn't call my init method yet, but still it gives this print statement that the object is being called, which means that the init method calls itself whenever the instance is created. So actually this line of code forces this statement to be called, because the instance is created and it gives init method calls itself, and whatever we used to write within that body, it just prints out on our console screen. And there it is. If I used to move to my singleton.swift class, send report is the method which I called with the instance which we created in our view controller, obj.sendReport, which means that the report has been sent to the doctor. Okay, things work very fine so far, but what if I used to create one more object of the doctor class globally? Let obj1, same style of declaration. Okay, so now I have created two objects. Basically, this is your object 1 and this is your object 2. So in order to understand, I would like to rename the objects object 2 and object 1 and object 1. Okay, that's fine so far. We have created two objects of the doctor class, which means the two instances have been created so far. Okay, send report is the method which I called with this object, and now again I am going to call the same method but with the different object, obj 2 dot send report. Okay, we have created two objects so far. This is the object 1, this is the object 2, and the send report method has been called with object 1, and there the send report method has been called with object 2. So now again build this application and see the result, what our console brings to us, what is the desired output which we used to receive. Build successfully, and okay, so this is something which I would like to show you. You can see the object is being called, this statement has print twice, and it's very obvious. The init method is directly interlinked with the creation of your object. Object is being called. So in my view controller class, I have declared two objects. So it means that two times my objects are going to take memory. Which is not a good approach. Two times memory has been assigned to my objects, which is not a good approach. It means that if I used to create 10 objects, 10 times my objects are going to use memory, which is not memory optimization, which is not an optimized way to write the code. So what should we do? That the object should be created only once. What should we do? Here comes singleton pattern. So now we will use the singleton pattern in order to prevent extra memory. So okay, move to my singleton.swift class and let's implement the singleton pattern. I would like to declare static. Okay, static means shared. Static let share instance, and it should be the doctor class. Okay, so what this shared instant let property is going to do, I have declared a shared instance stored property variable with the let constant and as well as with the static. Static means shared. The scope of this variable will be shared. It is known as a shared variable throughout the class. And it's very simple. Let's move towards my viewController.Swift class, and you can see if I used to remove these line of codes to make it understandable for you. Okay, so now my singleton.swift contains a static let shared variable. The most important approach while implementing singleton pattern is to make your initializer private. Okay, now what is the purpose of making this initializer private? It will prevent us from making the object of this class. As you can see, if I try to make object of this class, let obj doctor equals to doctor. Okay, it is not possible. As you can see, the error arises, and what the error says, the doctor initializer is inaccessible due to private protection level. And it's very simple and it's quite understandable that my default constructor, my init method, has been declared private, which means I am not going to make any object of my class. So this is one of the most important approach. You have to prevent any user, anyone who is going to use this class, you have to prevent that particular person in order to make the object of this class. We have to force them to stop it, not to make the instance of this class. ViewController.Swift class obj doctor equals to doctor, which means that we are not able to make object of this class. So how we are going to call this function? Send report. If we are not making object like we have done earlier, we make the object of the doctor class, and with the dot operator we call the send report method. But here comes your singleton pattern, which is very a handy way in memory optimization. Move towards your view controller class. Okay, now the name of your class, this is basically the implementation of singleton pattern. How you are going to use the singleton pattern? Implementation of singleton pattern. Okay, doctor dot, as you can see, shared instance, which is pointing towards this let constant shared instance, doctor dot shared instance dot, and here comes all the properties: doc cell number, doc id, doc name, and send report. So just choose the send report and we are done. Hit again and run this application, and you will see the same output which we received earlier when we try to make object of the class and we call the object, and there it is. Object is being called, the report has been sent to the doctor. So if I again used to call this send report method, let's see what will happen. Doctor dot shared instance dot send report. Again, run this application and see the output. I have called the send report method twice in my view did load method. So let's see the output, that how many times the default constructor will print on screen. And there it is. As you can see, object is being called, the report has been sent to the doctor, the report has been sent to the doctor, which means that my init method is calling only once. It doesn't matter how many times I am going to use this shared instance. It doesn't matter at all. If I used to call it twice, thrice, 5 times, 10 times, it doesn't matter at all. Which means that the init method is called only once, and called only once means that the memory assigned to my class object is only once, which is actual purpose of the singleton pattern class, that we should not use multiple memories in order to assign a lot of memory consumption, as we have seen that if I used to make 10 objects, then 10 times memory will be assigned to my objects. But as far as singleton pattern is concerned, it doesn't matter how many times you call the functions within your class, but the object will be created only once, and as well as the memory the object will used will remain the same. It won't use multiple memories. It will use only once. It will declare only once, and the memory that assigned to the object will be only once. So this is how we can implement a very basic singleton pattern. We can even access the stored properties also, doctor dot shared instance dot doc cell number doc id doc name. So we can easily access all the attributes, all the functions within our singleton class. As you can see, if I used to make one more function, send message, and again the print statement, the message, has been sent to the doctor, and move toward your view controller class, and again call doctor dot share instance dot send message. Now let's build this application once again, and you will see the initialization statement. The init method will called only once. It won't called multiple times. Like this, object is being called, the report has been sent to the doctor, the report has been sent to the doctor, the message has been sent to the doctor. So this is the basic advantage of using singleton pattern, guys. As you can see, I have called 3 times my methods, send report 2 times and send message method only once. But as you can see, it doesn't matter how many functions we are calling, how many properties we are trying to access, memory will not be consumed. Memory will be consumed only once, whenever we used to call our functions for the very first time. After that, it doesn't matter how many functions we are calling. So this is the best ever memory approach, the singleton pattern, and I hope you like this tutorial and you better understand this tutorial, so next time it becomes quite very handy for you to implement all your classes with the singleton pattern. And now you don't need to make object of the classes, now you don't need to make multiple object of the classes, so because that's not a good approach for the developers to move on. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you like it and keep watching our channel and our tutorials, and don't forget to follow us. Hit the subscribe button and follow our more tutorials in advanced Swift language. Till then, take care.